Hello everybody, this video we're talking about Lies of P. Oh boy, this game is truly a remarkable game. The biggest surprise for me, and one of the best games that I've played in recent memory. Really, it's such an incredible game. The thing is that with the game, well, I didn't, by the way, I'm new to Souls game, by the way. Elden Ring was my first one. And the thing is that I'm, kind of noob when it comes to Souls game. I didn't even want to play Souls game before. I was scared of this game. I didn't want to touch them. For me, gaming is about fun. I don't want to get frustrated, to get angry. I couldn't care. If the game causes me this, why should I even bother? But Elden Ring changed that. I was in Elden Ring at the beginning of the game and I told myself, either I'm going to fight this enemy for an hour and learn the mechanics, or I'm just going to drop and not play this game at all. Of course, I went with the first and decided to stay. And from that point on, I discovered an amazing game, and this opens up a whole new world of gaming experiences for me, for both Souls games and roguelike games as well. After that, after Elden Ring, I immediately played Returnal, which is an amazing game. Of course, it was tough, but challenging, but very, very rewarding. Now, Lies of P, I think it mix of the formula both of Sekiro, Shadow Die Twice, in Bloodborne, or Dark Souls, kind of a mix between the two. It relies heavily on parrying and blocking attacks, which something, of course, for me, relatively, new. So that's why you see I'm not performing well, because it's new to me. I need to get used to it. However, the game does give you ways to kind of make things easier for you until you get to be at your best. And this includes the summon, which you can tank enemies, and of course the damage as well. There's also some weapons that can give you high block damage resistance, which basically allows you to block even before and not do a perfect parry, and still be able to, of course, also retrieve health as well. So again, in this aspect, the game is allows new players to get into it without being overwhelmingly punishing. Now, it happens to me, by the way, in Elden Ring, for example, where the game forces me to be good. And it happens to me actually with Malenia. To be honest, when I played Malenia first, I beat it first time because I brought a mimic and she was just dead so fast. Only later I found out that people just talking crazy about how hard she is. And I was like, what? I just finished her like 2 minutes, that's it. Well, only later in the second playthrough, I realized how hard she was. And no worries, there's no Malenia enemy in the game. Here you can actually see Elden Ring footage where I actually just learn how to dodge her attacks. Because otherwise, when I'm facing her myself, I can't do it. So I need to learn how to dodge her, and basically I learn how to dodge her attacks every single time, which is pretty crazy. So you can see it does a flurry attack. Again, this is Malenia in Elden Ring. And basically, for what I did, I tried to get better. If you cannot get better in this game, again, unless you bring a mimic or something that tanks her, what I did in the first place. But when I did New Game Plus, I did it without it and was able to finish her after learning the moves every single time. So I just started learning how to dodge her attacks until I got pretty perfect with it. Yeah, so the same thing again happens with Lies of P. Now, regarding the boss fights in this game, I think they are incredible. The game overall ticks all the right boxes. This includes visuals, visual effects, music is incredible, sound effects, the details of the world, the lighting effects, the mechanics of the game. I think it's perfect. I mean, I have no complaints. It just works so well. And yes, kind of a very, tactile, felt very tactile and punchy. There's a option to craft weapon in the game, which I think is not overly complicated. It's actually made very simple, but it's very nice to have. I think the overall balance of the game also well done. I didn't feel anything like super OP or something that make me feel like it's not worthwhile using. But different weapons in the game you can enjoy. They play a bit differently to some degree, and they look beautiful and feel great. Of course, you can choose the way you actually play the game. There are different ways you can play it. You can go something a bit more heavy, or go something with faster playstyle. It's up to you to decide, and the game does that very well with all the different options that you have to craft different weapons. Now, regarding positioning of checkpoints, by the way, I think it's well placed, in general, so you won't find yourself spending 10 minutes trying to get to the boss or mini boss. It's actually made well, actually some degree very forgiving. For example, sometimes there's a mini boss, and after that might be a checkpoint. You can actually just go to the checkpoint and then go to the mini boss who's going to be close by. Regarding exploration, I found it to be very lacking. I didn't enjoy. I mean, we can compare it with the open world Elden Ring, which is just the king of the exploration open world for me. It was nice. Nothing. I didn't find any really cool secrets or anything. There are some optional mini bosses or optional bosses in the game that you can either decide to fight or not fight. And it's up to you again. If you feel that you're having a bit of trouble, you can skip them. But again, there are not many of them, but there are some. Bosses design, oh boy, again, when it comes to Souls games, you know it's all about the bosses. This is like the highlight of the game. The bosses are incredible, designed so well. Here you can see, for example, this boss, beautiful in a dark area with the lighting effects, really impressive. Again, all the bosses I really like, and none of them actually felt, well, there are some that are kind of duplicate, but it's not because they're designed to be duplicate, because they're some kind of the same group of enemies you're going to fight. But again, most of the bosses are totally unique. And not just that, I can tell you that each boss felt different. So I need to really to adapt, sometimes even change the build for some of the bosses in order to be able to finish them, which is super cool. I really like that, because again, every boss felt like something new. Some of the bosses, like this one, which is an optional boss, the Survivor, was so fast, so speedy. First I just tried to block, and I told myself, come on, I can't do that, I can't do that. Eventually I realized, well, they can just run around them and just find opportunity to, well, stabbing in the back. And it actually worked very well. There are lots of opportunities for you to actually just surround him, and it's kind of a pose a bit, and you can just attack him and deal massive damage. Again, this is something that, of course, realized based on experience, because the first time and second try that I tried, it just didn't work for me. So again, some of the bosses just felt like a puzzle. Again, if you're just really good at the game and you have lots of experience, none of them going to be really that difficult for you, because again, the game is, you know, there are many things regarding perfect parry that can, especially in the skill tree, can give you extra benefits and reward you for doing that. But again, if you're a new player, don't worry, there are ways to actually, even if you're not doing perfect parry every single time, to work around it and still do well. So when people tell me get better, I see this as a great thing. I mean, yes, please, I want something like that. I played so many easy games in the past. I want something to get better. Even start playing chess, by the way, to get better in the game. Seriously, chess.com. Nonetheless, and if somebody tells me also, you know, I feel we are cheating, you're not, I also take it as a compliment, because they can see I'm not on top of my game. So if you think that I'm cheating, well, I take it as a compliment. Nonetheless, in general, if you ask me if the game felt hard, no, it didn't feel very hard. It felt challenging, but fair, really fair, especially if I'm not, again, really that good in this type of games, although I'm getting better. It didn't feel very hard. Some bosses, of course, are harder than others. If you ask me, for example, the one that was more challenging, the last boss, the last boss before the last boss, Simon, actually the one after that wasn't hard at all. I think Simon for me was the hardest in general. Now, regarding items in this game, there are really cool items that allows you to create some really interesting build. It's pretty simple, it's not overwhelming, but there are really combinations that works really well. The skill tree is pretty, really mediocre, but a few options there for you to optimize the game. Don't expect really in-depth RNG type of customizations here. Now, the most important thing is the balance of the game. I think that they balance it so well. Because again, the game felt, whatever I'm using, whatever I take, it feels really well balanced for the pace of the game, for the difficulty of the bosses, for the different challenges. It felt really right. There are situations that are kind of crappy when you just walk and you don't expect enemies to be there. It just pushes you off. But again, these things kind of make you laugh, to be honest, rather than being frustrated. I'm actually laughing when it happens. I'm like, what are you doing? you know, they actually implemented there. Although there are ways actually to find it, to be careful a bit. The other thing that I didn't like is the butterflies that annoys me as well. But again, not in a bad way. It just was a bit annoying. Later I also read that people didn't like fighting multiple enemies. By the way, this boss fight is against multiple enemies, and I actually made a build for it just for this particular fight in order to finish it. But most of the time it's staying with the same weapon stuff. Some changes depends on the element that the enemies are dealing damage to me to reduce the damage, so better damage reduction. But again, that's mostly about it. But come on, it's a Pinocchio game as well, so when it comes to story, well, there are things I'm not going to spoil that make it very interesting and fun, unique, and unexpected. And yeah, basically, this was nice. Wise Becker's story, although I wasn't really totally immersed into it, the dialogue lines and voice acting, nothing really special here, but funny enough to have this extra to have fun with. Now, when it comes to difficulty, I know this is something that players worry the most. Keep in mind there are ways, of course, to learn everything, know when enemies attack are coming. It's not always very clear, but I learned, for example, in this fight where it goes against this boss, I learned that I can actually hit him when he just fire charge his weapon, and it can actually cancel it. So I don't need even to deal with it. But the thing is that if the game wasn't challenging for me, it was easy and I probably wouldn't enjoy it as much. I like the fact that it's actually challenging. I like the fact that I'm partially new when it comes to this game. And again, as I said, I'm getting better. Because again, I like it because it's challenging. Otherwise, if it was easy and I was just so good at it, I wouldn't enjoy it as much. Seriously, I would probably search for something extra. And probably I think that's the reason people really liked Sekiro Shadow Die Twice, because it brought that extra difficulty. For those who actually have good experience in the game, veterans of Souls game, they are searching for something harder to prove their skills. So what I'm saying to you, if you find it difficult, don't see it as a bad thing. You're going to feel lots of satisfaction once you're able to accomplish, by that I mean accomplish something, winning against boss fights in most part. So this is not bad that you're actually having a hard time. It's actually very, very good that you're having a hard time, because then you're going to feel great once you're able to defeat a boss. So again, it was easy, it was very easy, it was just GG's, let's move next to something more challenging, because I get the satisfaction because the game is challenging. I mean, otherwise it was just easy, it felt like a Diablo game, well, I don't care. Again, sometimes you build enough skill that you are searching for the next challenge. And it's true, by the way, not just video games, it's true to many other things. People always search for the next challenge, right? So that's the same here. And I think in that aspect, if you feel that the game is hard, don't be discouraged, it's actually a good thing. My opinion, Lies of P is one of the best games that I played in recent years, seriously. The problem is it is released in 2023, there are so many amazing games that already released and coming with so much hype that it feels like this is the game that you can actually skip. And that's why I'm saying to you, please don't. And I mentioned things regarding difficulty. Give it at least a try, especially if you're on Game Pass, which the game, at least of the time I'm making this video, is available on Game Pass. So again, last things, a few of the design decisions that I felt a bit lacking. There's something with the camera sometimes when you get close to walls or something, they just feel a bit off. Maybe this is better just to take the camera a bit back to give players the option to see bosses. Some of the bosses might be again so big that sometimes you can't even see their attacks. But again, in most part, you'll be able, if you position yourself well and adapt, you'll be able to do well with it. But these are some things that I think can be further adjusted by the developer, but overall it's a fantastic game, which I recommend to anyone, not just those who love Souls games, those who are searching for a challenging and fun game and love action games in general. Really, this is just, don't miss this game. It's absolutely incredible. Thanks for watching.